this is Warhawk Beyond 2040, and welcome to a very special bonus edition of the Progressive Rock and Metal album review series. Hope we're okay, and hope we've all had a lovely Christmas. And this year is almost over, 2023 is coming to an end. And today I'm going to be counting down my top 10 favourite albums of the year. Not an easy task. This was a huge challenge for me putting this list together, especially as we've had so much incredible music that's come out over the last 12 months. But at the same time, this was a lot of fun putting this list together and revisiting some of these fantastic albums. And after agonizing and changing and going around in circles, I've finally narrowed it down to the top 10 albums that I consider to be the absolute best of 2023. These albums that I've chosen, these are the ones that really stood out to me. These are the ones I thought were the absolute best. And there's a little bit of everything in this list. There's some live releases, there are a couple of double albums, there's some surprises, there's some hidden gems, there's some albums that really came out with a huge bang. It's all there. And as I said, these are the albums that I've chosen as my top 10 favourites of 2023. Now, obviously, there are going to be some albums that are going to be a little bit lower than others. It's not because I didn't like it. I loved all 10 of these albums very much. Obviously, I like some a little bit more than others, for different reasons, of course. But, this is what makes putting these things together so much fun and interesting because, you know, some of these albums, some people may not agree with where I've ranked them. Some might say to me, well, hang on a second. I thought that album was a little bit higher. That album should have been lower. That's the beauty of putting the top 10 because everyone's got their top 10. Everyone's choices are different. But as I said, these albums that I've chosen, I consider to be the absolute best. Now, putting together the top five, that was really easy because I already have my top five. That was so easy. But putting the second half together to make up to 10 was really hard. But I think I've put together a really good list, in my opinion. And as I said, these are the albums I consider to be the absolute best of 2023. And these were the ones that are my favourites. So, with that all said, let's not waste any more time. Let's kick things off. So, coming in at number 10 is Yes, Mirror to the Sky. So, this was Yes's first album since 2021's The Quest. And this album was, I wouldn't say it was a classic Yes album, but it was a good album. It was a lot more stronger than The Quest. This was a double album. This was the first album not to feature Alan White since his passing. So Jay Shellen stepped in to replace Alan White behind the drum kit, and he really brought a lot of muscle and power to the music. Steve Howe, who produced this album, he sounds absolutely amazing as always on guitars. Billy Sherwood, a rock solid bass player with lots of top notch bass work. Jeff Downs adds lots of textural colours to the music with his keyboards. John Davidson, great singer, sounds amazing as always. And I thought this was a good, strong effort. A lot better than The Quest, but I wouldn't put this as a classic Yes album. It's a good album. There's some great tracks. There's some great playing. The production is absolutely incredible, but I wouldn't consider this to be a classic Yes album. But it's still a good album. But this album really did stand out to me. I thought this was a good, solid album. And, the bonus disc was really enjoyable as well. So I thought this album deserves to be in the top 10. And besides, it's Yes, you know. Yes are one of the greatest progressive rock bands of all time. Their reputation is absolutely legendary, and it doesn't get better than these guys. And they're still going very strong. So there you have it. Coming in at number 10, Yes, Mirror to the Sky. Excellent stuff. And coming in at number 9 is The Flower Kings. Look at You Now. This comes just a year after the band's last studio album by Royal Decree, and it's very good. This one was a very good album, very enjoyable, kind of harkens back to the earlier sound and style of the Flower Kings. And the Flower Kings have always been known for their lengthy, epic numbers, and the last couple of albums they've seemed to have kind of strayed away from that. So they seem to be doing more shorter songs. But here, there's still some shorter songs, but the closer, which is the title track, is like 12 minutes long. So it's nice to see that the Flower Kings are giving a little something back to the fans just to remind them that we haven't completely abandoned the epic tracks. We're still doing long songs. So we'll throw in this nice little 12 minutes number just for you guys. So I thought that was very decent of the Flower Kings. And there's some great playing, some great vocals from both Roy Stoltz and Hasse Froberg. And yeah, I like this album. This was very, very good. I'm still missing that classic Flower Kings that we all know and love. They're still a great band. They're one of my all-time favorites and my dad's as well. I've seen these guys many, many times. These songs sound much better live, and they really give you your money's worth. So hopefully this album will be the start of the Flower Kings returning to their true form and giving us a real epic album. But this is still a fantastic album. This one really stood out to me. And just as I said earlier about Yes, I'm going to say the same thing about these guys. It's the Flower Kings. And, anytime the Flower Kings put out a new album, you know it's going to be good. And even if it's not going to be completely perfect, there's always going to be some standout tracks. And this album was no exception. And going forward, we've got a brand new lineup of the Flower Kings. We know we've got Michael Stoltz back on bass. We've got Lally Larson on keyboards, who now replaces Thomas Bowden, who was the original keyboardist for the Flower Kings for many, many years. So I'm really excited to see what the Flower Kings will come up with next. But good, strong, solid album. And at number 9, the Flower Kings, Look at You Now. Excellent album from one of the best progressive rock bands of all time. And coming in at number 8, Catatonia, Sky Void of Stars. Now, when this album came out, this album absolutely blew me away. I just thought to myself, that can't be Catatonia. It was powerful, it was heavy, it packed a hell of a punch, and the production just made my jaw drop. For me, this is probably the best sounding album that Catatonia have put out in their long career as a band. I'm not saying that the earlier albums, production wise, wasn't good, but all of their albums sound great, but there was just something about this album in particular. It sounded really crisp, very slick, very clear. The songs are amazing. The band sound incredible. The musicianship, the playing, the vocals, everything about it. The songs, it's just boom, 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 boom. Nothing bad to say about this album. And this is Catatonia at their darkest, at their heaviest, their atmospheric and McCullany best. When you hear Catatonia, you know straight away it's them because there's nobody else that sounds quite like them. And when you hear Jonas Rensky's voice, you just know, yeah, that's Catatonia. I know who that is. But this album was just a revelation for me. This was just a tremendous album and so many great songs. And for me, the standout track for me, which is my all-time favorite, is Drab Moon. It's just absolutely dark, atmospheric, and heavy at the same time. It's a really powerful song, but the whole album from start to finish is just fantastic. So there you have it at number 8, Catatonia, Sky Void of Stars. Excellent album. And coming in at number 7 is one of the true icons of the prog rock genre is Neil Morse, The Dreamer, Joseph, Part 1. Now, Neil Morse is a guy who's been around for over 3 decades. He's still going very strong, and he's done a lot of music. The Neil Morse Band, Transatlantic, Flying Colours, the band with Ross Jennings and Nick DiVigilio, the band with Randy George and Mike Portnoy, of course, formerly of Spock's Beard. This guy has put out a lot of stuff. And of course, let's not forget his solo career, NMB, aka the Neil Morse Band. Neil Morse is a songwriting machine. He just puts out albums every year, and this one was yet again another prog epic. And Neil Morse is very heavily into religion, so there are references to God and the Bible in his lyrics. But this album really was a very enjoyable listen, very powerful. And one thing I've always loved about Neil Morse, aside from being an amazing singer and composer, is he packs a lot of energy into his music, and he really takes you on a journey. And this album, The Dreamer, Joseph Part 1, was no exception. From the opening overture right to the very end, he just took you on a journey. And Neil Morse is one of those musicians in any genre. He can just lure you in, and he can be poppy, he can be heavy, he can definitely prog out with the best of them. He can shred. He's so highly versatile. He can do it all. And with this album, it's a concept album, like many of his previous recordings are. But you just get so immersed into the concept and the story and the characters that are portrayed throughout the music. It's just an amazing album and definitely worthy of being in the top 10 spots. So you can't have prog without Neil Morse, and it would be criminal of me not to mention Neil Morse in terms of standing out. And once again, he always stands out to me. So there you have it at number 7, Neil Morse, The Dreamer, Joseph, Part 1. An excellent album, and yet again, another prog masterpiece from one of the true icons of the genre. Excellent stuff. And coming in at number 6 is Camelot, The Awakening. Now, Tommy Kervick has been Camelot's singer for 11 years now, since joining in 2012 after replacing Roy Khan. And to me, Camelot, since Kervick came on board, has never been more stronger. They have never sounded more tighter, and they're on a real roll. And this is their 4th studio album with Kervick, and it's amazing. Tommy Kervick has a fantastic voice. For me, he's currently probably the best singer right now. And all due respect to Roy Khan and some of the other singers who have sang with Camelot over the years, Tommy Kervick, when it's all said and done, could very well be Camelot's best singer they've ever had. And that's saying a lot, considering, Roy Khan made so many classic albums with Camelot over the years. But I think Kervick, he's really pushed these guys to really taking things to the next level. And this album is no exception. It's heavy, it's fast, it packs a hell of a punch, and there's so much power and energy, not just in Kervick's voice, but in the guys as well. Thomas Youngblood, he's just knocking it out of the park with unbelievable shredding guitar playing. everybody just sounds incredible. And, we've got some great singers as well. We've got Melissa Bonney guesting on one track from Ad Infinitum. Everything about this album is just kick ass. And speaking of kick ass, we've got a guest appearance from Tina Guo. She's on this album as well. This album, you know, when I heard this, I thought, yeah, this is Camelot. This is what I like to hear. This is what I want. And these guys not only give you what you want, but they go above and beyond for Call of Duty. Camelot to me have never put out a bad album. But in the case of Tommy Kerovic in the band, there has been no bad album. I can't really sit there and say, well, that album wasn't that good. Maybe they need to go back to the drawing board. Oh no. These guys are on a roll and they're showing no signs of slowing down. This album, just listened to this recently before putting this all together. It's good. It's really, really good. So there you have it at number 6. Camelot The Awakening. Kick ass. Go and buy it. You won't be disappointed. And I'm looking forward to seeing these guys live if and when they do come to the UK. Tremendous stuff. Coming in at number 5 is, and it's a live recording, Sherinian Phillips live. So the partnership of Derek Sherinian and Simon Phillips started more than 20 years ago, and it's still going very strong as we speak. And you're not going to find two better musicians than Derek Sherinian and Simon Phillips. Simon Phillips, of course, one of the true legends of the drum kit and has been one of my favourite drummers for many, many years. Derek Sherinian, one of the absolute best keyboard players in the world and quite possibly my all-time favourite keyboardist in metal. So when you put these two guys together, you know it's going to be good. But not only is it going to be good, you know it's going to be excellent. And, it's been long overdue for a Derek Sherinian live album. So I'm really pleased we finally got it at last. And although this doesn't feature any new material as such, it's got material that Simon Phillips was a part of. We've got material from Molecular Hypnosity. We've got material from the Vortex, the Phoenix, Inertia. You know, it's all here. And when you've got two amazing musicians in guitarist Ron Bumblefoot Fowl and Rick Farabracci on bass, you've got a real kick-ass band that, quite frankly, equals Planet X. And when you get four musicians of this caliber together, you know it's going to kick ass. And as I said, these are guys who don't disappoint. And Derek Sherinian, I think, since hooking up with Simon Phillips, he's become better, if that's possible. Simon Phillips has really brought out the best in Derek Sherinian and vice versa. And yeah, this is a great album. Even though it's a live recording, I've included it in this list simply because of who it is. And I love these guys, and this album is really, really good. My only takeaway with this album is I wish it was longer and I wish it was a double, and I really wish they could have just thrown in a Blu-ray for good measure. Maybe this could have been number one, but yeah, I had to include this on the list because it would be rude not to, because it's Derek Sherinian, it's Simon Phillips, it's Bumblefoot, it's Rick Farabracci. Doesn't get any better than that. Four world-class musicians just putting on a powerhouse clinic. So there you have it at number 5, Sherinian Phillips Live. Excellent album. If you like to hear live music, check this one out. You're in for something really special. Coming in at number 4 is Riverside ID Entity. This is the first Riverside album to feature newest member, guitarist Maciej Mela, who replaces original member Petra Gradoginski, who sadly passed away in 2016. And this is the first album since 2018's Wasteland. And it's a very different kind of Riverside album. It's a lot more lighter, a lot more laid back. Some of it is in the poppy side of things, but that's not a bad thing because Riverside have never been afraid of trying out different styles to expand their sound. But when you hear these guys, you know straight away who it is because Riverside have a very distinct and recognizable sound. Marius Dudar, the front man and the main man of the band, he sounds incredible as always on bass. He even plays some guitars as well. Very prolific on acoustic guitar as well, and an amazing singer with some great vocals. Peter Krozodonsky, a real powerhouse of the drums. I consider him to be the muscle of Riverside. And Michael Laplage, great keyboard player as always, delivers lots of great sounds and colour to the music. And Maciej Miller, he's no Peter Gradoginski, he's very much his own man. He's made Riverside a lot more laid back, which is not a bad thing, but he's still got that crunchy shredder kind of sound that Riverside are known for. So he really adds a lot to the music, and he's all over this album as well. And all four musicians sound great, and you could really tell that they sound very tight as a band. And it's just Riverside. You know, what more can you really say, really? And I've said it before, and I still stand by this. Riverside are the best band to ever burst onto the scene since Porcupine Tree, and they always continue to prove me right with that statement. And this is a band, they're on a real roll right now, and they continue to keep getting better and better. So if you're looking to buy Identity, highly recommend you buy the double album because the bonus tracks are really good, and there's some long pieces as well which Riverside have been known for in the past. So there you have it at number 4, Riverside Identity. Excellent album. Coming in at number 3 is Mystery Redemption. Now, when this album came out and I heard the first track, which was Behind the Mirror, I thought, holy cow, Mystery are back with a vengeance. And I was super pumped for this album to come out. These guys have never put out a bad album. To me, they are the best band to ever burst onto the scene since Yes. And even though Mystery don't have as many albums as Yes, what they do have is very good. And this one, Redemption, is no exception. It's fantastic. It packs a punch. There's some epic tracks on here, which Mystery are known for, doing the lengthy numbers. But wow, this album really blew my head off. I thought, holy cow, this is good. This is really, really good. And everything about this album, the production, the vocals, the musicianship, it's got it all. If you like to hear a modern progressive rock band, if you like Yes or you like Rush, any of those kind of bands, Mystery are the band for you to check out because they're so good and they're on a real roll right now. The last few albums, have been absolutely tremendous, but this one could very well be right there near at the top. And at one point, this album was almost my album of the year. You know, because this one really stood out to me because I just thought, wow, this was so good. And the closer track, this is how the story ends. Doesn't get any better than that. It's just classic Mystery. And I've seen these guys a number of times and they really put on an amazing show. So coming in at number 3 is Mystery Redemption. Excellent album. One of the true standouts of 2023. Love it. Coming in at number 2 is Stephen Wilson, The Harmony Codex. Now, had this album had come out at the beginning of the year, then this quite possibly could have been my album of the year for 2023. But because it's at number 2, it doesn't mean that I don't like this album. I absolutely adore this album. I think this album is absolutely fantastic and a huge step up and improvement from the Future Bites. even though I have said that Personal Shopper is the best track of that album, there was just something about the Future Bites that didn't really click with me, if I'm truly honest. But when the Harmony Codex came out, and the first track that I heard was the epic Impossible Tightrope, I thought, oh yes, that's the Stephen Wilson I know and love. That's who I want to hear. That's what I was missing from the Future Bites. But aside from that prog epic track, there's elements of pop, there's elements of atmospheric, ambience. The track with Nanette Tayeb is absolutely gorgeous and very mainstream, but it's got so many different influences all in one. And just like the album cover, it's like a Rubik's Cube, there's all different colors and there's all lots of different things going on. And for me, this is an amazing album, one of Stephen Wilson's best albums from his solo career, and very enjoyable, and it's very musical. Stephen Wilson, I have always said, is not only the greatest musician you've never heard of, but he is one of the ultimate musical chameleons. He is always trying out new things, never boxing himself in one genre. He's always trying out different stuff and taking risks, and I've always respected him for that. You know, Obviously, some people out there would rather hear him make 20 Porcupine Tree albums. That wouldn't be such a bad thing, but with Stephen Wilson's solo, he can just go wherever he wants, and 9 times out of 10, he usually makes things work. He knows what he's doing, he knows what he wants, he's got his vision, and he knows how things are going to sound. He knows what he wants it to be. And with this album, The Harmony Codex, he kind of is more like an explorer. He's just going around exploring things. I thought, let's try this or let's try that. This might work. And you definitely get that sense with this album. So for me, Harmony Codex, one of Stephen Wilson's strongest and best albums to date, and it's at number 2. There you have it. Stephen Wilson, The Harmony Codex. Excellent album, and was very close to being my album of the year. But this doesn't take away from the fact that The Harmony Codex was still fantastic, and as I said, one of Stephen Wilson's strongest and best efforts to date. But it's going to have to settle at number 2. So there you have it. Stephen Wilson, The Harmony Codex. Tremendous album. And finally, coming in at number 1 is Carnatica, Requiem for a Dream. So when I first heard this album, I was absolutely blown away because, it had been so long since Carnatica had put out an album featuring new material. So when I heard the first track, which was All Around the World, I was just completely gobsmacked. My jaw dropped, and I thought, wow, Carnatica are back, bigger, better than ever, and with a vengeance. And I was just absolutely blown away by how good this album was. And instantly, I made up my mind within the first few seconds of hearing this entire album from start to finish. Yeah, this is definitely my album of the year. So, this was the band's first album in 8 years since 2015's Secrets of Angels, and bassist Ian Jones, who is the creative force and brains behind the band. He's been in the band since its inception. He's played in every single incarnation and lineup. He's been there through the thick and the thin. And one thing about Ian Jones is when he comes up with the goods, he always delivers and he never disappoints. And there's no duff stuff there. And, he always gets these amazing musicians, these incredible singers. There's not been a bad singer for Carnatica. Obviously, Hayley Griffiths has a very special place in my heart. She was something really, really special. So Ian Jones returns with a brand new lineup of Karnataka and a brand new singer, Satari, who is more than just a pretty face. She is a real knockout of a singer. Very good looking, with a very beautiful and angelic voice to match. She is the whole package and very powerful on stage live. Luke Mashin, his guitar playing is just thunderous. He's all over this album. He is one of the standout guys of this album. And Gonzalo Carrera, although he's only on like a couple of tracks, a tremendous keyboard player as well. Everybody, the whole band, everything about this album is just boom, boom, boom. It's just excellent. You know, every song on this album is just tremendous. All Around the World, Sacrifice, Look to the East, Forgiven, The Night's Dance, Say Goodbye Tomorrow, Don't Forget My Name, and the closer, which is like 25 minutes long, the title track, Requiem for a Dream. Everything about it, this is why I've chosen this album as my favourite of 2023. The Harmony Codex was very close, don't get me wrong, it nearly had the title, and a couple of others were not far behind, but this one really, really stood out to me for 2023. And just hearing and seeing this album played live in person doesn't get any better than that. So there you have it. My album of the year for 2023, Karnataka, Requiem for a Dream. Absolutely fantastic. And I'm hoping this lineup stays together so we can get a live recording and possibly maybe another studio album. Fingers crossed. One can only hope. So there you have it. My album of the year for 2023, Karnataka, Requiem for a Dream. Excellent stuff and one of the band's strongest albums to date. Certainly equally as good as Secrets of Angels. Secrets of Angels for me is a special album and one very close and dear to my heart, but this one's very much up there. It's no slouch, believe me. There you have it, my album of the year. So there you have it, my top 10 favourite albums of 2023. Do you agree with this list? Do you have your own top 10 favourites of 2023? Do you think any of these albums could have been album of the year? There's no right or wrong answer. We all have our favourite albums of the year. You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below. And I will see all of you next time for another edition of the Progressive Rock and Metal album review series. And I will see all of you in the new year, in 2024. So until then, take care, everybody, and stay safe. And once again, as always, much appreciated. Thanks for listening, and Happy New Year.